Hi class, how are you guys doing? Um, Welcome to Fun Friday. Woohoo! It's finally Friday. Um, so today we are still going to be continuing reading What Would She Do? I'd like you to take a moment and think about the two other people that we've read this week. Two people who have created such a difference in our world. They've been heroes in my eyes. And I'd also, mentioning that, heroes in my eyes, I'd like you guys to think about that essential question we had throughout the week. What is a hero? How are we able to define a hero? What's a hero in your life? And so I think the two people we talked about this past week will definitely help you in being able to describe what is a hero. We talked about their external characteristics, but we also talked about their something in their inside. What was that called? Internal characteristics. And so learning about their internal characteristics, we learned more about what exactly is a hero, or certain attributes or characteristics does a hero need. So today we're going to read about another hero. Her name is Malala Yousafzai. She's a more current hero. So our heroes, earlier on this week, I kind of went by actually like time. So we started off with, you remember, we started off with Frida Kahlo. Um, and then after Frida Kahlo, so she was during the 50s and 60s. And then after Frida Kahlo, we went to Wangari Maathai, and she was more so during the early 2000s. She's age 71 now in 2011. And then our last one, we're kind of traveling in time. Our last one is Malala Yousafzai. She's about in 2000. Let's see how old she is. She was born in 1997, so she's only. You gotta do some math real quick. Yeah, she's really young. She's like not even. She's about 20. Okay, so Malala Yousafzai was born in the Swat Valley of northwestern Pakistan. She has loved to learn ever since she was very young. Her father ran a school somewhere she could satisfy her thirst for knowledge. But in 2007, everything changed. I wonder what happened. What happened in 2007? Let's see what happened. Let's see what event happened that made her world change. The Taliban, a hardline Islamic movement, took over the area where she lived and brought in new laws. One of these new laws had a devastating effect on Malala. Girls were banned from going to school. To 10-year-old Malala, the ban was deeply unfair. All I want is an education, she said. But what could she do? Plenty, it turned out. She spoke against the Taliban on television. Then she began to blog for the British Broadcasting Corporation called BBC. She wrote about her fear of war, about living under the Taliban's rule, and about her longing to go to school. At first, she blogged anonymously. That means not having your identity and or your name on what you're writing. But after her identity was revealed in 2009, she began to campaign in public. That year, the ban on girls' education was partially lifted. Soon after, though, war broke out in Pakistan, and Malala was forced to flee to the Swat Valley. Once she was home again, months later, she carried on campaigning. So we're going to stop right there for a moment. I want to work on and discuss the skill that we are going to be improving while we are reading about Miss Malala. So the skill that we're going to be working on today is, once again, win, which is finding your central idea. It helps us. Once you've found a win, you are more able to create a central idea statement. So who/what is the W, the I is important information, and our N is the number of words is low. So that means about 20 words should be our central statement or our central idea. My question first, though, is who or what are we talking about? What was your name again? As I am writing it, think about it. It is an interesting last name. It's a little bit different than what we're used to. Malala Yousafzai. It's really different because she's from somewhere else, and everybody around the world has different sorts of names. So her name was Malala Yousafzai. And then our next part is we need to go to the I, important information. So what is considered important information versus interesting? What I'd like you to do right now is look at this chart. We have our important versus interesting. I'd like you to draw your chart and tell me how you know 2 ways that you know something's important in a story and 2 ways that you know something is just interesting in a story. Pause the video, take a moment to do this T-chart. Okay, now what we're going to be doing is I'm going to show you guys the answers. So, with important information, it helps us answer the essential question. It changes the story, or in this case, it changes the person's life because we're reading about the story we're reading about is a person's life, and it has an impact on their life or their story. Interesting information, though, wouldn't really change the story. It wouldn't really change their life. It has a small impact on their life or small impact on the story. So when we are looking at Malala's story, there's already been some important information. What changed her life? I'd like you real quick to jot down some thoughts on what changed her life. What was some important information? Miss Martin found that something that changed her life or that really impacted it and made a big, it made her realize that what her values were. I would say it was when the Taliban took over, and when the Taliban took over, it then said that girls were not allowed to go to school. So, and girls weren't allowed to go to school. Then it told you this is important information, what did Malala do in response? When this happened, how did she change her life? She changed her life. She started doing something. She initiated something that she might have not done before. It said that she started protesting and talking and blogging. She started blogging for the BBC. And BBC is the British Broadcasting Network. Okay, so she started protesting and blogging for the British broadcast. It's basically news. So she started telling the news about what was going on in her country. So that's what I would say was some important information. I would say this is important information about Malala's life because these 2 events definitely changed her life. They made a great impact. Let's see if we find out some more important information about her. Malala's efforts were now becoming more and more well known, and in 2011, she was awarded the International Children's Peace Prize and Pakistan's National Youth Peace Prize, the first of many honors. She was now receiving death threats, though. She went on speaking for girls' right to an education. On October 9th, 2012, Malala was shot. She was seriously wounded by Taliban gunmen. She was only 15. Offers to treat Malala poured in from all over the world. Eventually, she was flown to a hospital in the UK, which had a lot of experience in treating her and bullet wounds. And after an incredible recovery, Malala celebrated her 16th birthday on 2013, now known as Malala Day. She gave a speech at the United Nations in New York City. Meanwhile, millions signed a petition, and Pakistan's National Assembly passed a bill that guaranteed free education for all children aged 5 to 16. That's incredible. I would say that would be something that was a part of our important information, is that because of Malala, Pakistan passed a bill, and that means they passed a rule, and this rule said that people from ages 5 to 16 are guaranteed an education like we are in America. So in Pakistan, it wasn't like that. Earlier, you heard it said when the Taliban took over, the girls weren't allowed to go to school. But because of Malala, girls and boys from 5 to 16 are guaranteed a free education. The Malala Fund was set up the same year to bring awareness to the need for girls' education and to empower girls to raise their voices, to unlock their potential, and to demand change. In 2014, Malala became the youngest person ever to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of her struggle for the right of all children to an education. She continues to make herself heard. I do not want to be thought of as the girl who was shot by the Taliban. I want to be thought of as the girl who fought for education, Malala said. This is the cause to which I want to devote my life. That's so amazing. I love to hear a story where another person is fighting for education and is fighting for the equality of education. That means or equity as well. That means that everybody is not just getting an education, but they're getting the education for them. And so as you heard in Malala's story, she wasn't, at first, she encountered some changes in her life, some struggles and some conflict. And that conflict that she encountered was when the Taliban took over and they said girls weren't allowed to be going to school any longer. And she thought that was so unfair. She fought against this rule that the Taliban had created, and she fought against it by blogging and protesting. And she basically spread it out to the news internationally. She went around the globe and told everybody about what was happening to her in Pakistan. And then another challenge occurred. You heard earlier, something very devastating happened to her. While she was protesting, she was then later shot. But that didn't stop her fight. She continued her fight, and she was very inspirational in that she was determined and persistent to continue this fight. No matter the conflict or devastating situations that she encountered, she continued to fight through, and she fought for education throughout it all. So that's what I really consider a hero, is someone that has a passion and somebody that, even though they are challenged with devastating situations, they're still able to fight through, and they're still able to pursue their passion. And how, especially her passion, was education, and how a person's passion can really change a society. Education can really change a society, can really change our minds. Think about this. Right now, you guys are in 4th grade. You are about 10 years old. What if you weren't? What if you were in Pakistan in Malala's time? That means if you were a girl, if you were like me, Miss Martin, you wouldn't be able to be going to school. Think about how unfair that is, and then think about what would you do to make that change, and how would you continue to make that change. If it didn't, let's say it didn't happen after a few months, girls still weren't allowed to go to school, how would you still push forward and inspire others? And so, would you do what Malala did? Would you blog? You gotta think about that. What is an issue that you see in your life that really impacts you, and how might you change that? So the last thing I want you guys to do is our exit ticket. In our exit ticket, it asks you to write down a central idea. So remember, our central idea is answering that essential question. My essential question was, what is a hero? Miss Martin kind of wrapped up her idea of what a hero is. I'd like to hear your viewpoint though, and make sure to use our win strategy. So who you're talking about, Malala Yousafzai, and the important information we went over earlier. There was some important information about her life. And we went over the difference in between important information and just interesting. And then our last thing is you're going to write in about one sentence. Make sure that it's only about like 20 words, your central idea. Okay, so remember, while you're answering your central idea, you're trying to think about, how was Malala Yousafzai a hero? What does hero mean? Okay, thank you. Make sure you do your exit tickets. Have a great day. Bye.